Die Forelle stands for the trout. This is a song about a fish, ostensibly, and it was written by the sort of last classical composer and the first Romantic era composer, Franz Schubert. Franz Schubert was a school teacher, he had glasses, and he was around in the 1800s when he became famous, and he wrote for piano. I know that I've said that Beethoven often straddles the two periods, classical to romantic. Well, Schubert was a bit like that. He wrote in a very classical style, but what made him more romantic was that he liked to write about more natural kind of themes, about nature. That's one of the things, and he really, really relied on the piano. He wrote over 600 songs, Schubert, and many of them about love. This one is one of those natural songs about nature. On its surface level, it's a bit about a fish, and it uses the words by Christian Friedrich Daniel Schubart. So don't get confused between Schubert, the composer, and Schubart, the lyricist. The song is relatively simple. I'll go through the translation with you. In einem Bächlein heller, in a little brook, a bright little brook, there shot a merry haste, a capricious trout, die launische Forelle. Past it shot like an arrow. So it's all very positive right now. We're getting all this imagery about the fish, and then I stood upon the bank, ich stand an der Gestade, and watched in sweet peace. Oh, it's lovely, the cheery fish's bath in a clear little brook in klaren Bächlein zu. So here I am, the narrator. I am a fan of the fish. But then ein Fischer mit der Rute, a fisherman with his rod, stood at the waterside and watched with cold blood, kaltem Blute, as the fish swam about, Fischlein, Hand. So long as the clearness of the water, Wasserhelle, remained intact, I thought he would not be able to catch the trout. So fängt die Forelle mit seiner Angel nicht, with his fishing rod. But then, these are the first two verses, or the first two sections of the song. You'll notice the repeat in the music. But finally, the thief. So the narrator, fan of the fish, calls the fisherman, ein Fischer, he's the thief. Finally, the thief grew weary of waiting. He stirred up the brook and made it muddy. Before I guessed it, his fishing rod was twitching. The fish was squirming there. He got him, das Fischlein zappelt dran. Und ich mit regem Blute. And I, with raging blood, I gazed at the betrayed fish, sah die Betrogene an. So we're not a fan of the fisherman in this. So what happens in the music is, essentially, there's a repeat of the first section, which we would call the A section, in which, in this key, and the recording we're in B flat. Now the original recording was in D flat major, and it's good to have singers sing in flats. So this was originally written for voice and piano. Piano, remember, being a relatively new instrument on the scene. It had been around for 100 years, but it was not really in its modernish form until around this time. It was much bigger than Mozart's piano, and it could do more things, it could do more dynamics. So piano was really the hit of the Romantic era. And in this piece, we start in B flat, and it's got this wonderful, this is a computer version, but it's got this wonderful little lick. And those little motifs, remember, we're in the water, so what does that little motif make you think about in the river? And the piece continues. And I'll let you listen to the real version that's also included on this page. But that little motif is significant, because if we're trying to talk about a fish in the water, that will have something to do with it. The melody is quite singable, almost a classical melody, because classical melodies were quite singable. And we go through that section. This is all about the fish, and then something changes in the B section. And this is the section where a fisherman with his rod comes, no. This is the section where the fisherman's there, and then he gets his fish, and this is what it sounds like, if we're lucky. So we're transitioning out of that section into this section. So it's much more dramatic. And when you listen to that section in the video, you'll still hear that we have these kind of running sections going on. The melody, look at that melody. Look at how linear that melody is. It just sort of stays pretty much along with that same note, and then it sort of outlines a few chords. So we could call that triadic or chordal. And then there's some moments in there and some articulation that you want to take note of when you listen to it on the real score. And in the end, it sort of peters out and the fish is caught. And remember, after the fish is caught, the narrator is very upset about it. And the piece just sort of fades. The range changes. And it ends right there. So remember that we're talking about muddying the water. Where does he say this? He stirred up the brook and made it muddy. Before he guessed it, the fish was twitching. So the muddy words are here. Das Bächlein tückisch trübe. And I can't tell you which of those means mud, but Google Translate can. Here it is. So how's the water being muddied in the music? Notice a little difference maybe between where the rests are here and then there's no rests in there. So answer the short questions that come with this video, and then you can answer the analysis question after we've discussed this in class.